Take One podcast.
Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
There, you've been peeing a lot.
I've been peeing a ton. Are we rolling right now?
Oh yeah, man, we're rolling.
Okay,
we're
okay.
rolling.
Yeah, I've been peeing an absolute ton. It's crazy.
And how come though?
Well, because I'm doing the shred here at the garage gym, and 6 week shred, you got to drink a lot of water.
Yeah, what's your number a day?
4 liters.
4 liters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm doing the 75 hard. I've been drinking like 4 liters, trying to do almost 5 a day for I'm on day 64 or 65. I pee a lot.
Yeah. First of all, the 75 hard looks amazing. I think I'd like to try it maybe next year, but yeah, the water's insane. It's just I'm going to the bathroom every 5 minutes. I go to the bathroom a lot anyway, so I'm going all the time. It's okay.
And you were saying before we started recording, packed has become something a thing for you.
So I was eating a lot of eggs the first few weeks, and I don't know about you, but I could only eat eggs so many days, let alone a big mound pile of eggs. And so somebody said to me, I think Nikki at the gym said, you should try these brownie chocolate packed pancakes. And so changed my life. Eat those every day. One giant pancake covered in blueberries, a little bit of maple syrup, just a tiny little bit. It's perfect.
Really? Shout out to Monica at Pact. Monica's one of my Tag Life people. She's really killing it. She does a good thing.
Oh,
so
it's fantastic.
Chocolate brownies, your go-to?
Chocolate brownie, 100%.
Really? So I'll blow your mind again. Take the chocolate brownie, mix it with the peanut butter together. So there's the peanut butter flavor of the chocolate brownie. Yeah. So good. And another trick, everybody's listening. Listen to this trick because Danny came up with this. You don't typically cook a pancake with the lid on the pan, right? I don't know if Danny's not she's really becoming a better cook lately. Not she's a bad cook at all. She just she follows recipes, you know what I mean? She just the kitchen's not her thing, but she's really getting good at it. And she put the pan on the pancakes. It changed our whole packed experience.
Why?
It makes them more moist.
Okay.
She does a good job of it, Monica, with packed to keep them so they're not completely dried out. If you ever made a homemade packed or a homemade protein pancake, they're always so dry. But put the lid on it and they seem to be fluffier and more like a typical. What are those Aunt Jemima pre-made or whatever the ones that aren't good for you type pancakes.
Yeah, we'll finish our packed ad in a minute here. I'm doing 2 scoops of packed pancakes, a little bit of egg whites, and a little bit of Greek yogurt. And so that's my mix.
It.
Yeah, so I mix that up, no water. So it makes one giant pancake. It's almost a bit too liquidy. It's very hard to flip, but if I can get it over, it's perfect. It's good. But on Saturday, I ran out of packed, so I tried making one with just protein powder and a little bit of baking powder. It was really hard to eat. Really bad. It was just not good.
Yeah, the baking powder can be rough, man.
No,
See, baking powder is that thing. If you add just that touch too much, it's disgusting.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of I make a waffle with the multigrain, not multigrain, everything bagel.
Okay.
Flavor that they do, a waffle with some eggs over top and just crack it. Oh, so good.
The other thing that's worth checking out, maybe you've heard about it, but it's the Magic Spoon cereal. So I don't know if you've heard about that. So they make kids versions of cereals, but really loaded with protein. Used to only ship into the States. Now they ship to Canada. It's really, really good as well.
Wow. So far we've promoted Black Rifle, Packed, and none of the people that actually pay us for this stuff. But no, Monica, I love supporting the local business. She's local right here from LaSalle, Ontario, and if you want her product, it's available pretty much all over Canada, and it's really taken off. And since we're doing our promos, HQ Nutrition, I got my White Freezy EAAs going right now.
Oh,
and
that's delicious too.
Popped my HQ Focus. I do that before every podcast. If you're interested, head over to their website. Tango 15. The nootropics, man. I don't know if you've gotten into that thing, but I'm a believer. I just feel more alert. That with maybe quitting drinking. So, anyways, today the guy I've been chatting with is Noah Fleming. If you guys don't know Noah, he was on episode I think 15 or something. One of our first episodes. We've been bringing back a lot of our fan favorites so far, and the people that I love sitting down to. Not that I haven't enjoyed every guest, but some of them are just a lot more closer knit into my life. And I see Noah once, twice a week for almost 5 years, because he is my very first Kingsville customer. Apprehensively came in, refused to give me a deposit until we opened the doors, but now believes in us very much. Noah operates his own Fleming Consulting, his own business. He quit his 9-to-5 job many years ago. If you want to hear that whole story, go to episode 15. It's awesome. It's a very inspirational story. And we were really plugging a lot of the old podcasts lately, so hopefully people are going back. He's also written 3 books: Evergreen, The Customer Loyalty Loop, and Dealing with Difficult Customer. And most importantly, he is a husband and a father to 2 beautiful daughters, and he's known as the Kingmaker of Kingsville.
No, don't say that.
I'll never let him live that down, and I hope the other members are listening and you don't do the same. So let's roll, man. So let's just start right there in the shred. So you are really killing it in the shred. You were one of the few people who haven't taken ever jumped on board with our transformations and our shreds. We do them twice a year, usually at New Year's and in the summer shred, this one being. However, with COVID, we backed it up to September, and people seem to be really killing it, and you're one of them.
Well, thanks.
What are some results? What are some things that are happening? What have you learned? Let's go through it.
I don't know why I've never done them in the past. They're just, I love the gym. I've been going since day one. It just never crossed my radar as something I should do, even though I've probably known every time I should do it. And I think, I don't know. I step on the scale once in a while, and sometimes you see a number that doesn't look right, or sometimes you look in the mirror and something doesn't look right. And so I just knew that this time it was time to give it a try. And I told myself if I was going to do it, I was going to be extremely disciplined here. And I have been. I haven't cheated once.
Wow.
Stuck with, there's probably a slice of pizza in there, I think, one day, but have stuck with it. And, I feel amazing. I feel probably better than I've felt all year. I have more energy than I've ever had. I'm working out early now. So it's been great. And I've said to my wife, Heather, that every time the gym does one of these, I'm probably going to do it now just for that 6-week reset, which I think is just it's so beneficial and so powerful. So, yeah, I'm thrilled that I did it. And, a week and a half to go, but I think I'll probably stick with it longer.
Good. And so what about alcohol? You stay away from that?
Yeah, so this year, I think like a lot of people after the pandemic or through the pandemic, I drank probably way more than I should. We were ordering a lot of wine.
Wine.
We had it coming by.
Especially in the winter, right?
Yeah, I mean, starting probably last April, the kind of month or two in the pandemic, it was arriving every couple of days by the box full from Niagara and all over. And so I guess, people do a dry January. We did a dry January, which was our goal to stick with January, but that turned into February, and then that turned into March. We had a little bit in March, a little bit of wine. We kind of introduced a little bit back, but I mean, I probably cut down my drinking by 90% from what I used to drink. Not that I drank a ton or I had any sort of drinking problem, but I had a glass of wine. Maybe. Yeah, that's right. Probably had a glass of wine every night with dinner, and I'm involved in a wine club, and so we meet once a month and drink a lot of wine. And I've just totally cut it back, and again, just feel a lot better, a lot more clarity.
Weird how the energy it's like you're probably going to bed at the same time. Like I do, at least, even when I was having drinks. It's like the clarity and the energy that I feel is so odd.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think a lot of people would feel the same way. Drinking's really fun in the moment and when you're doing it, but you never feel good after. You never do. I never feel right the next day or the next morning. There's just a cloudiness and a fog, and a lot of people talk about brain fog and not having sort of the clarity they would like, and I think that's a big part of it. And so cutting that out has been really good. And I turned 40, and just one of those things to work on.
Young dog. So let's talk body composition. Are you feeling like clothes fitting different? Like, do you feel shoulders? What do you feel changing?
I think so. I mean, no, I will talk about it. I mean, just saying I turned 40, I've got probably 20 something years of not great eating habits, right? And probably have never really focused on nutrition as well as I should. I've tracked what I eat before. I've tracked macros. I've done that whole thing, and you often lose weight, but again, the body composition as you get older, it starts to change, and it starts to get a lot harder. And so, yeah, I haven't lost a ton of weight, I think, but I'm stronger. Clothes are definitely fitting a little bit better, but it's like I've told my wife, I'm not going to turn into some tank in 6 weeks. It's going to take some time to really trim down. And so, but I think the really cool thing is there is a transformation there, right? It's a like you guys have said from early on, it's a transformation in your mind that you can do this, and you can have healthy eating habits, and you can plan meals, and you can eat healthy every day, and it's really doable and actually quite enjoyable. And
transformation, it means you're not going back, you're transformed into something different. And that for me is a mindset thing. We had somebody say to us in the last couple of weeks, like, yeah, I could have done this from home. Well, yeah, absolutely. You're supposed, that's the
Yeah,
whole idea.
that's right.
We want you to do this from home, and we want it to go beyond 6 weeks. Like, I know a lot of people are into the 6-week gimmick and those kinds of things. That's the naysayers. But for us, it's like, we want to teach you in 6 weeks. Like, we don't want you to redo this every single time. We want you to want to, because you enjoyed it so much. You know what I'm saying? We don't want you to have to redo this in like next time, but I hope that you want to, because you had such an enjoyable experience with it. And it is weird, like the body, it's like nutrition and fitness, I feel like, are the fountain of youth.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
for sure.
Birthdays aren't the same. Like, I don't feel like my 43rd birthday is the same as a lot of people's 43rd birthdays, you know? And I want to stay like that. I always want to be that way.
Yeah, you know, when you work out at a gym like Garage Gym every day, there's really fit people that come in and the shirts are coming off, and some of these guys show up at the gym without even wearing a shirt. They walk into the door, shirts already off. And again, it's going to take some time to get to that point. It's not going to happen in 6 weeks, but I think the foundation is set, and you recognize that you can change your body in a really interesting, dramatic way.
Yeah, 75 days for me, I'm almost there at 75 days, but the pictures from day one to now are pretty drastic, and it's literally 2 pounds difference. Yeah, it's crazy. And I think a lot of people, I had a conversation with a female here, and this is the part that really we want to hammer home, is like, she's like, oh, I'm only down such and such. And it was like, also considering like her starting body weight is like fucking 60% of what I weigh. Yeah. Like, so like when you, like if I lost 10 pounds and she lost 4 pounds, it's like, it's equivalent. Yeah. Right. But it's just not a huge number. And then she goes on, and you're like, well, but how do you feel? I feel great. My clothes fit better. I look better in the mirror, blah, 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 blah. But I've only lost 4. And you're like, why the butt? Like, that's everything else in front of that seems so important. We put a number on this, or such value on this number of some device that really has no bearing on your health. Yeah. You know, like, so.
Yeah, I think too, I've fallen into that trap before. You know, he asked me why I did it this time, why I haven't in the past. I've fallen into that trap before of it's not the right time, right? But there's always something, right? And right when this started, people would say, like, how are you going to get through Thanksgiving, right? Well, I'm going to get through Thanksgiving. I'm going to have some turkey. I'm going to have maybe a little tiny sliver of pie, but I'm not going to have 4 plates full of stuff. And so I always told myself, you know, well, Halloween's coming and Christmas is coming and then New Year's is coming, but there's always something coming.
You're 100%. The 75 too, especially the longer commitment. It was like, when do we start? And we end up starting in the summer, which people are like, you're crazy. But I'm like same with you. It's like, start? Well, when am I, during like the Super Bowl? Like during, like, it's always going to be something. And I went through the last month of summer. I went through my birthday. I went through, for me, the draft day for my fantasy league is a big one. Opening day for the NFL, and Thanksgiving, and a family wedding. The wedding was the hardest one. I don't know if I ever want to go to a wedding again sober, but everything else hasn't been that bad. And you know, we'll see how it goes. But I know the day that I'm done this is the day I leave for that fishing trip up north that I do with my buddies every year for the World Series. So I know that there's somebody at Costco right now buying all the chips that they sell. So we'll see how I make out. But I feel like I'm gonna feel like extra shit now, like when I do have.
Yeah, but then you just, you know what? That's the thing about the transformation. Again, I've realized. Then you just get back on the wagon. Right? Yeah, it's like, exactly. Enjoy New Year's or enjoy this trip with your buddies and have some chips and have some fun. But come Monday, right back at it. And I think
dial it right back in.
I mean, that's been my problem in the past. It snowballs. What happens between Friday and Sunday is all of a sudden the same way I'm eating on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it doesn't work that way.
And you've been strict, so I'm curious. I didn't plan to go this whole nutrition route with you, but you've been strict. And I'm curious on what you've done, because I know some people are all about the macros, and we offer both. Like, you can build your own macros, like eat X amount of protein, carbs, and fats, or you can follow the 2-day meal plan that Danny's laid out.
So what did you chosen to do? The meal plan was helpful, and I've used that to an extent, but I'm also tracking macros. I think the biggest breakthrough for me is the meal prep and the meal planning, and inspired by another member, Allie Dunn, watching her posts every week. Yeah, she's a machine, man. And again, being busy, I think we talked about this last time. We're busy with kids. We've got sports. We've all got a lot going on. That to me, again, has been such a pivotal transformation point that Sunday I can cook for a whole week in about 2.5-3 hours and not have to think about it anymore. It's amazing. I leave to go to my office in the morning. I grab, my snack, and I grab my lunch, and it's all right there. Come home, just throw something in the microwave or on the stove, warm it up, and it's all done. And so for me, that has been such a game changer. So yeah, a lot of chicken, a lot of sweet potatoes, a lot of broccoli, but sriracha is amazing, and sriracha makes everything taste.
Sriracha does.
Everything tastes
does.
so good with sriracha. So I haven't gotten sick of a meal. Just enjoying it.
So I've been eating almost basically the same meal plan. We've adjusted portions. She started this shred. I'm like the guinea pig for Danny always with this fuel stuff. So she guinea pigged this shred on me before we decided to do 75 hard. So I ate like the shred. Almost the same meal plan, and then went ready to 75 hard, and I'm just like, fuck it, just keep my meal plan. So I've been eating the same for almost 4 months. Like during the shred prep, I wasn't like being super strict, but most meals, and then I just cheat here and there. But I found like following a meal plan, I know a lot of people say you don't learn from a meal plan. I kind of disagree, because the meal plan for me is like, I have, like you said, 0 thoughts. It's 1, 3, 4 less decisions I have to make in a day. What am I going to eat? I go to that thing and I'm like a machine now. I don't have to look at my paper. I'm like 1 cup of this, 1 this, out the door.
Yeah.
And then when I do have a meal that, like, say I went to your house for dinner or over to Irv's or went out for dinner, we went for lunch right now, I just make that meal resemble what my meal would be.
Yeah.
So like, I might not be having steak, but what's another fatty meat? It might be salmon.
That's right.
I'm going to eat around the same amount. I'm going to eat that same amount, roughly eyeball, and like, I'm not going to worry that my cup of rice or my cup of sweet potatoes might be off just a little bit, but it's close enough where it's going to keep me in the game, right? It makes a lot of sense.
It really does. I mean, the last sort of breakthrough for me is I've often heard Danny say that food is fuel, right? And I've heard her say that for years, but it hasn't really meant a lot to me. It hasn't really resonated too much because I eat like shit. And so I never really feel that great after some of the stuff that I eat. But I get it now because I have a lot of fuel. I have a lot of energy. Like I said, there's a lot of clarity. I can go to bed well at night. I'm not hungry. I'm not craving to have some snacks because I'm eating really good foods throughout the day. And just so, yeah, it's been really great. It's been really awesome.
The only complaint I have is, man, the up in carbs. Man, I am a gas machine. Like, I'm a machine. I'm a machine. You can't be around me on some days. But other than that, I think it's like, but that's also a learning curve. You're like, man, I got something important today. I better not have that rice.
Yeah, you
better go to the sweet potato today. Anyways, all right, let's get in. So Danny's actually been reading your book. And like part of the 75 hard challenges, we read 10 pages a day. And she, I read your book when you gave it to me, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And then she got into it. So we've been discussing it a lot. And there's been some things happening in the gym with all these changes and all this stuff that we had to really, we were looking for, for advice and for references and for just different routes and different techniques. And one of the things that kind of hit us with you is your 3 C's.
Yeah.
So character, correct me if I'm wrong, character, community, and content.
You got it.
So how does a small business versus, I can see how a small business does this, but you advise big businesses, like you've worked with Broadway, you've worked with Capitals, Michael Kors. Like the garage gym to have character, community, and content seems simple.
Yeah.
How do you bring that to a large scale?
Yeah, it's a good question. It doesn't always resonate to a larger business, but in a lot of cases it does. So the concept of character and how you can accentuate your company's character. There's a lot of CEOs in larger companies that can really get involved like you do in a small business and have more of a presence. And so that can bring out that character of who they want to be. Again, big companies can be really good at forming communities. The big thing for me that was a big takeaway in that book as I was reflecting on what's been going on at the garage gym was this idea of community versus tribes. And I think that was really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you read that again. But, it was a distinction I made a few years ago when I wrote that book, because there was a book at the time called Tribes by Seth Godin, who I was a huge follower of. I'm a huge fan of. He actually has an endorsement. He has an endorsement on the cover of Evergreen. And so he read that and, he kind of disagreed with what I had said, but I kind of disagreed with what he said. But the difference was a lot of brands were talking about this idea of building tribes. But if you look at tribes historically, tribes are really, they're exclusionary, right? If you're not in the tribe, you're not in, right? Where communities are more inclusionary. If you're new, you're welcome. We want you to be part of this. And so to me, that was just a distinction that I think a lot of companies were falling in a trap of. CrossFit, right, often refer to themselves as a tribe. And so a lot of CrossFit gyms, in my feeling, had that sort of tribe mentality. It's kind of hard to break in. even though they also want it to be a community. And so to me, there was a big distinction there.
Yeah. I find like community, a lot of communities kind of lately has been an oversold word. Like community and culture are two things that I'm trying to separate. Like community is part of our values, but I find that culture might be even more important, like bringing the proper culture into your community. And that's what a lot of this stuff was. We had some, some tension, and it was, at the end of the day, it's on me, and I wanted to make sure, like, hey, this is me opening up to you guys on where I've gone wrong, and hoping that opens self-awareness to other people to say, like, oh, you know what, maybe we could have done this better, maybe we could have done that better. And then if everybody from, let's say the top down, without trying to be, derogatory by that, like the top being me, the down being the newest person who ever joined the gym. If we all just do things a little bit better, with the new changing rules and stuff, I think that community will just thrive.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, it is a 99.9%. This is never a problem.
Right.
It's just that 0.1%, man, it just seems to sting, and it seems to sit around. And the longer you let a little ember burn, the more likely it is to cause a fire. And that was my mistake as the leader, is I was letting an ember, start to catch, and it was starting to get a little bit of a flame. And then, a conversation, it's crazy how like a real shitty, hard conversation really sorts things out.
Yeah. I think, you're maybe being a bit too hard on yourself, if you ask me my opinion, but I also think you're a very self-aware leader, and you're constantly thinking about what's going on. You're inspired, and you love this community that you've built. And so I think you care about it tremendously. I do believe that any sort of challenges like this can sort of come up and stem up and get worse. But at the end of the day, the culture's there. You've built a really fabulous culture. And I think, like you said, having that conversation was so beneficial. It has opened a lot of doors. Now we're party planning, right? And we're looking at the next thing. And so it's like, oh, we're back. Here we go. We're all good.
Yeah.
So it was great. And, I think that's, to me, the key is that if you have a leader that has that sort of self-awareness, but also has that care for the culture, and whether that's customers or employees or whatever, that just goes so far. I've worked with, as you said, I've worked with some big companies. I've worked with some really bad leaders. I don't know if I told this story last time, but I had a client, was a $100 million company. And when I was there, people would come up to me in tears, right? And just a negative culture. And so I think, to go to your point, culture and community are very much aligned. I think community has been an overused buzzword over the past few years, but it's important. And you're right. I think culture feeds your community. And so, I think you're doing a great job.
Well, I appreciate that. One lesson learned from, Irv, you're starting a business, or you have a business. You're starting to grow your business. You have more team members, which means that you have more people to manage. And one thing I learned is, like, almost, I would say, like, I think I talked to you about this, like, I feel like 90% of what I said in that meeting had been reiterated in every correspondence via email, via our group messaging, all that stuff. It's just, it just goes to show how much human contact means.
Yeah.
Because saying it and people seeing my expression, right? Like, that's why I think the evolution of Zoom has been so much. Like, now when I do calls with like onboarding people, or like every new person I get on a phone call with them, I do it on Zoom. I want to see their face. I want them to see, and you realize, like, wearing a mask, how much people lose of what you say. Like, a lot of what I do, like, I talk very harshly, like, for the most part, to people, but I usually say it with a smile. That's why I kind of like stop with this mask, because I feel like a lot of the stuff I'm saying is being taken to people like, oh my God, what did you just say to me? And they're not seeing the love that's coming behind it. And I think that's real important. That's a lesson I learned.
Yeah.
Is like, don't rely on the email, don't rely on the messaging. Like I was relying too much on that technology, where I should be relying on, like, what I do best, which is being in front of people. It's lean into your strengths.
Yeah, it's hard for people. Sometimes it's hard for people to say what's really on their mind. But what happens is those things simmer, right? And they simmer and they get to that boiling point, and it's not good. I was talking to a CEO yesterday of a company in Vancouver, and again, a really high impact leader of a company. And he was telling us this story very similar. Like, he comes into the office and everybody's wearing masks, and he would say something like, how you feeling today? And, and the answer is always like, oh, I'm fine, right? But like he wants to know, no, really, how are you feeling today? Like, take off the mask, have a conversation with me. And I think it's really hard for some people. The pandemic has made things obviously a lot harder. Like you said, we've gotten accustomed to technology and Zoom calls. All of my business interactions in the past 18 months have been over Zoom. Like, it does get a little exhausting and tiring. We need to get face to face with people, as hard as it is, and we need to have those conversations.
Yeah, man, for sure. Has anybody you've talked to, this is kind of I think what led to some of my maybe faults that you say I'm being too hard about. It was like I feel like I'm at decision making exhaustion right now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just so tired of making decisions. I'm also very, very tired of delivering bad news. I feel like every time I talk to our group, it's like, we can't do this, we can't do that, this is what we're gonna do to work around this. Like, it's like, I don't feel like I'm ever getting on there and saying like, hey, we're having a charity and we raised $100,000.
Yeah.
Like, that used to be us. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's where I'm becoming like, and even just with the day-to-day decisions that people don't even know that are happening, it's like non-stop. And I know that's common and I used to do in my old job, but just lately it just feels a little bit different. They're weighing a little bit heavier.
I think everybody's, it's pandemic exhaustion. I think everybody's exhausted with what's been going on. 18 months ago, we never thought we'd be where we are today and still having these discussions. I mean, we can't even cross the border yet. They say that's coming, but we can't. And, I think people are just tired. And so we're a little bit more on edge. The thing that I've been saying to my clients, which I've been getting them to think about, is that you've heard people say this, there won't be a return to normal, right? Whatever normal was or whatever normal is, there won't be a return to normal. There's going to be some sort of new normal and new world we're operating in, which means everything's different. The way we travel is different. The way we go to school is different. The way we have our jobs is different. Everything's going to be different. And so I think we just need to all do our best to try and get through this, do the best we can with the information we have, take some for the team, right? Sometimes things aren't going to go your way, but I think we'll get there. It's just going to be a different world.
Do you think we're being too accepting of that new normal though? Like, to me, like, a lot of the stuff that's being shoved, it just seems to me like it's like we're just like here in Canada saying like, okay, go ahead. Like, whereas like I know like I had a friend home who has a very good job over in the States. Mm-hmm. Has been highly, and where he is in the States, there's also the passports. There's also this. Mm-hmm. He was home for a week and he's like, I cannot believe. He goes, we have the same rules. But if you ask me that in the States, like, basically the Americans are looking at you and saying like, fuck off. It's not your place to tell me. I have my rights. Whereas here we're like, whether you're vaccinated or not, you're like, oh, okay, here you go. Yeah, yeah. Like, you think, I don't know.
I don't know. It's a tough question. We've always been a far more conservative country, right? And do things a little bit differently. And so I don't know. I mean, I do believe, my personal belief is that there is a time when we need to move on. And we need to realize that this is not going away. And, it's time for life to, again, return to that new normal. But it's time to get there. And I don't know what that looks like. But yeah, maybe sometimes we are a little bit too willing to just pander to what's being thrown at us. But again, my personal belief is that the pandemic lasted longer than most people ever thought it would. Yeah. A lot of people died, right? A lot of people got sick, I think. And so there's part of me that says, yeah, we need to take this seriously. And part of me says, time to move on with life.
Yeah. I'm just mind blown, like, coming from the police background where I, even today, right now, there's a cop probably in somewhere in this country being chastised for pulling over an actual criminal.
That's right.
For pulling over a criminal and asking them to identify themselves. Whereas I can't go to watch my son play baseball without doing the same thing. That just, to me, seems like we've gone so far, and I think this world, we really overreact to a lot of things, and it becomes that like domino effect of one company says we're doing this, every single company just like, to me, everybody's making decisions to cover their own ass rather than do what's right. Yeah. And I hate that about this like world, but I don't want to go there. I don't want to turn this into a super negative thing, but maybe we differ. We don't. That's why we have guests on here. We don't want to do that kind of thing.
No, I mean, I think it's good, right? And I think the most valuable thing to me is to be able to have these discussions. And so I have friends that are unvaccinated, right? And I am vaccinated, and I think the best thing that we can do is to be able to have these discussions. And, whether or not I choose to sit with that person in a room, that's up to me, but I do. And I've had great discussions with those people. And I think that's the most valuable thing. Instead of just shunning them away,
Right.
Either side, that's to me is where the real problems occur. And we've really created this sort of black or white, decisive sort of moment here. And hopefully that will change. Hopefully that will get better, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I was crazy proud of the Kingsville meeting. That had nothing to do with vaccinations that we had. It was the ability for people to voice their opinions, voice their observations, voice their experiences, and whether you agreed or not, it was okay.
Yeah.
It's like we don't have to agree. We just have to try to understand the other side. And I think if you try to put the other person's shoes on, like maybe you'll be a little bit more empathetic, and the world just I think if we did that with everything, it'd just be a much smoother place right now.
And again, I think that meeting was well. The thing that I always tell my clients is at the end of the day, a business with your customers, it's not a democracy though. Right?
Exactly. And that's something I say in my meetings with my team. Like at the end of the day, nothing is.
And that is important for customers to realize. You may feel like you have ownership. You may feel like you're invested. You may feel like you're loyal. I mean, that's what I wrote books about, right? Being a loyal customer, being that loyal person that would do anything for this company. But at the end of the day, you may not have a say in the decisions that are made. And the company might not be able to make decisions based on whatever's happening in the world that maybe work for you or maybe work for somebody else. And so that can be a challenge for some people. But again, that's the way it is.
My usual co-host, Casey, that was a conversation between us a lot of times in our garage gym meetings was, he's an alpha male. And a lot of times it was like, hey, listen, I've heard what you have to say. This isn't a democracy. Yeah. This is the route we're going. So do it and do it well. And I think and understanding people are heard and they have a lot of value what they're offering, and that's where being the boss versus the leader is the difference too, is actually considering those things and then still making a proper decision, even though maybe it is a different avenue you decided to go for.
I mean, I'll comment on your decision making thing too. Decision making is a thing that I see that challenges even the best CEOs and presidents of companies that are much bigger than Garage Gym, right? They struggle with it. And oftentimes, though, we just have to make the best balanced decision, right? And so I was taught a method by my business coach using a coffee filter and using a decision-making process with a coffee filter. And essentially, when you make a cup of coffee, you put in your coffee beans and you pour the water over, right? And the goal there is to have a nice balanced cup of Black Rifle coffee. And so a decision is very similar. You may not make the right decision, but you're trying to make the best balanced decision. And with that, you have to weigh the things you want, the things you'd like to have, and the risks. And so when I teach my clients that there's like a little light bulb goes off, because again, they've been trying to figure out what is the absolute best decision here that I can make. That's a good way to start, but at the end of the day, you just want the best balanced decision with the most acceptable amount of risk that's going to give you the wants and needs that you'd like to see from it. And so you always have these different things that go into that filter. It's never going to be perfect, but you're just trying to get to that balance point. I think you've done a great job of that.
Yeah, we teach a lot of that. So a lot of that stuff, and this is a good discussion actually, through tactics, through this, there's a thing called the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act.
Okay.
And that is basically how it came from a fighter pilot, Boyd, back in the days of the dogfights. And the person who can get through the OODA loop the fastest without being interrupted will likely win that fight. So when we teach tactics, when we teach going through a house, the same kind of thing, or even like walking into this room, you're presented with a man with a knife. Observe, orient, decide, act, right? The faster you can get through that, and then the opposite way is to disrupt that OODA loop.
Yeah.
So as I want to disrupt the man with the knife, I want to disrupt his OODA loop. So maybe I'm going to move to my right. Maybe we're going to split. Maybe I'm going to put a chair between him and I. Those are kind of the things that we're doing to constantly move through that. And the best way to deal with the OODA loop is to have situational awareness, right? So a lot of people go through life without that, I feel like, because you feel safe in this country all the time, right? So not having situational awareness, but it's a skill, practicing situational awareness, okay, where am I? Now you talk about environmental awareness, what could happen? What are the consequences? What am I willing to do or not do? And then situational avoidance being the full loop, I can just step myself out of this situation and not be in it, right? So the faster that you can get through an OODA loop, and I tell people in my clients that I deal with Blast and with the tactical life coaching is practice making decisions all the time.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want for dinner? Beef or chicken? Beef. You know what I mean? Like, some people are like, man, you know, I had chicken 3 days in a row. Just make a fucking decision. The more decisions you make, the easier the bigger ones will be. And then another great way is just, like we talked about with the meal plans, just cut out some decisions. The less decisions you have to make, the less tired you are, and the more you can focus on the big ones and get through them quick.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, there's psychology studies about that, right? When you go to your favorite restaurant and you hum and haw about the menu, but yet every other time you've been there, you get the exact same thing. Well, the research shows you're never going to be happy unless you get that exact same thing. So just take the decision making out of it, get the thing you like, and enjoy it.
And we talk about our teams, like the reason our team operates so quickly is because they all have the power to make decisions. And they're all constantly being forced to make decisions. So they're always traveling through that OODA loop. Yeah. So that a lot of stuff is getting done without having to, like, you know, that's the greatest part of being a small business is like at the police station, and not to rip on the police station, but they know it's true. You send up a memo, it goes to another boss, it goes to another boss, goes to another boss. By the time it gets around, it's half the time it's even forgotten. You know what I mean? It's just such a slow process. And I know big business is a lot like that. So allowing people to get through the OODA loop, make decisions on their own on your team really seems to help.
Well, situational awareness and self-awareness are such a big thing. And again, my business coach used to talk a lot about that. And the example that he always gave, which always stuck with me, was going down the escalator at the airport or at the mall, and you know, the person that stops at the bottom and starts checking their phone, right? But doesn't realize there's 50 people coming behind. But
the guy at Costco that stands in the middle of the aisle with the cart.
Yeah, that's right. But that's a lack of self-awareness and a lack of situational awareness. Now, again, you know, a lot of people go through life with that sort of lack of self-awareness. So it does require practice, and it does require some thought to look around and say, you know, am I the only one that's doing this, or are others having these challenges too, or do others feel the same way as I do? And so it's just something you need to think about. But yeah.
So hilarious story, situational awareness. So Costco is like I know there's a lot of people that love this place. Well, I got rid of my cart. I cannot handle being there.
I just started going.
I cannot handle being there whatsoever, man. So one of the last times I was ever in Costco, then that's what kills me. It's the people standing, like, zero self-awareness, zero like care for anybody else in the world. And they stand in the middle, they're getting their snack, or they're like looking at something, and they just come to that stuff. My son, my oldest, when he was young, we used to have that card. He was obsessed with elephants, and he would pretend he was an elephant everywhere he went, and always at home, and he'd like do, woo, woo. So he's in the front of this cart, and we're in Costco, and all these people would get in our way, and he would like go, like an elephant, and all these people would be like, but they would move, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever had. Like, I didn't even yell at him for doing it anymore, because he was like bringing people's like alertness to like, hey, there's other people in the store around you. This is, you know, working through that store. So, I don't know. It was one of the funniest things. It would be like one of those videos. I wish we could have just followed around a camera and seen people's reactions to this little kid like elephant trumping at them to get them the hell out of the way. And
I don't know. Have you ever heard the quote or the word Sonder? So there's a great word, Sonder, and if you look it up, you'll find the description. I don't know it because there's a big long quote, but the idea is that it's important to recognize that every single person around you is living a life as vivid and as exciting and as, you know, full of problems and challenges as your own. And so you need to think about that, because everybody's got the same crap going on. Everybody's got the same sort of busyness in their schedules. And so that quote, that word has always stuck with me as something that I just try and think about. When something's not working out perfectly for me, recognizing it's probably also not working out for somebody else. And, you know, I try and embrace that. I'm not always perfect at it, but I try.
I'm trying to find this Sonder quote. I don't even know how to spell Sonder.
Sonder.
Sonder. But I love that. I love that. That's a great way of looking at it. Like, this isn't working for me. This might not be working for other people.
That's right.
I mean, that kind of hits home right now, right?
So yeah, it's a great quote. It's always stuck with me. It's I don't know, just one of these things I've always liked. Did you find it?
Oh no, there's so many. This is impossible. This is Irvin. Aren't you supposed to be doing this? Isn't that what we're? Oh, he's like focusing, and that's way more important now.
I do so much, Tony.
The realization that each passerby has a life as vivid and complex as your own.
That's right.
That's a great way to look at things. If you're gonna, I think that might be our show title for this one.
Yeah, you know, and I think it keeps going, right? It says that the random passerby is like an extra in a movie. But recognizing that just because they're an extra in that film, they might be the star of their own film, right? And so you got to recognize that and pay attention to that. And I think it's something that not a lot of people do enough of. We're constantly worried about me and ourselves.
Yeah, and I think like it got the pandemic really like
it did
heighten that.
Sure.
And like somebody said, I think it was your buddy Ian Murray there said he's like, you know, like one thing with COVID is people's like social skills have taken a nosedive, and I think it's true. You know, I think we've like. Some for the good, because I think we've cut out a lot of the shit we don't need and a lot of relationships we don't need, but also like we're kind of forgetting on how to like
drive-by birthday parties, keep them going.
Yeah, keep them going. There's a lot of things we can keep going out of this. That's a good way of looking at things. So man, over this pandemic, it's been funny to watch your transformation, not just this shred thing, but I'm talking more like, so you had just transferred to a home office.
Yeah.
You wrote this great email about how to work at home.
Yeah.
COVID happens, your life gets flipped upside down. Now you're further write another email for us on how to work at home with a family at home, and clearly at some point you decide that's not working for me. What happened? Like, why are you now have this really cool office that I've yet to visit but need to? What was that? How did all this come about?
Yeah, so it's funny. I've worked from home for 15 plus years, and so I think I spoke about this last time. Many of those years were a lot of good work, and there was also a lot of procrastination, right? Like I'm pulling out the vacuum and vacuuming the floor just because I don't want to do the work in front of me. But yeah, as the rest of the world came home, I decided it was time to go out of the house. And so an opportunity came up with a buddy to buy an old, actually a new warehouse space. We had originally bought it to store. I've got an old Land Rover. He's got a car as well. So we originally bought this space to store our cars in the winter. And then we said, well, you know what? If we've got the space, we might as well put a couple offices in there. And then, of course, if you had an office, well, then you need a bathroom, and then you need a kitchen, and then it turned into a boardroom, and then it turned into a bar. And so it just kind of expanded from there. But I think it's one of the best things I've ever done because I have somewhere to go now every day. I'm out of the house. You know, I'm able to stay focused there, get some quiet time. So it's worked out really well. It's still kind of like working from home, right? Because it is kind of my home, and it's kind of something that I built and I've owned, and it's got a lot of love into it. The thing that I said early on is we can call it an office, but it's not ever really going to be an office. It has to be somewhere I want to go and hang out on a Friday night or a Saturday night, and so that's what we built. And it's you got to come by. It's super fun.
Yeah, what are some of the tricked out things we got in here?
So we have a golf simulator. Which is pretty fun. So you can do a lot of things on that. You can play sports. There's some zombie dodgeball for the kids, which they love. The cars that we started with, there's no room for the cars anymore. So we do have two bars. Sorry, we've got a really decked out boardroom, which is great. So we've had some meetings in there, and we built some rental offices upstairs. So we've got some tenants in there now. So it's a cool place. There's a cool vibe. There's people coming by. So again, working from home for that long, the only time I ever really saw my peers or colleagues or anybody was when I was on the road traveling or attending different events. And so now I'm in an environment with 5 busy entrepreneurs every day, and so it's just a really cool space now that we've built. And it's awesome. Love it.
That was very awesome, man. Very awesome. And like back to the vacuuming, that was because of the bag of chips you had just polished off after your lunch, right?
Doritos, yeah.
Man, that is awesome. So we like to tease you about being fancy, and you're always wearing some fancy clothes in here. You gotta try my new stuff, man. This new stuff that I'm working with, this 10,000 company. You will freaking love it, man.
Yeah.
This is the best sports performance stuff ever.
Hook me up with the Tango One discount.
Now that you're ripped, it really like. When you squat down, it really flexes around your glutes. Okay. I think you would enjoy this. So you're one of the COVID guys who grew up the hair.
Yeah, I've let it go.
Hair, huh?
Yeah, just letting it go.
Suits you, man.
Thank you. We'll see what happens.
So what's next? What's next for your consulting business? Obviously, things have changed. You were flying out constantly.
Yeah,
and
so
now never. Things
have really changed. So I haven't gone to see a client or visited anybody since last March, meaning the previous March when the pandemic started. So what I did when the pandemic first started was I made a really conscious effort to really just double down my efforts on my clients that I had. And so there's only a small amount of them that I was working with, but I worked really closely with them, and I dug in a lot deeper. And so again, like we talk about relationships and loyalty, I really just dove in deep and over delivered. I was there when they didn't want me to be there. I was showing up on all the calls, far more than I had ever done before. And that panned out really well for me because I've still maintained most of those clients. So I think for me, I'll probably start doing a little bit of traveling again relatively soon. I've got a client out in California who I would love to go see. They're right in Napa Valley. They're involved with wine. So it's a great client. Would love to get back out there. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe do another book. Not sure. The thing with me is, this office space that I've got now, and this time that I have, because I used to travel, I used to plan travel, I used to have to go on these trips that would take a couple of days in the airport. I have a lot more time now. And so that's allowed me to explore other things. So I don't know. I see a lot of opportunity everywhere, and I've always been like that. I feel like if you want to do something, there's probably a good chance you can make it work with a little bit of effort. And so I'm just constantly dabbling in new things, exploring different things, seeing where I can, make some money, feed the kids, get paid.
Feed the kids.
Yeah.
What is the new things that you specifically that you've, like we were talking downstairs, I've kind of started dabbling in. I guess I've gone all in on this MMA thing. 3 days a week I've been training.
The office space itself was my sort of first endeavor into real estate. And so actually owning some real estate of my own. So, it's a commercial property. So I would love to do something like that again, build something else for somebody else. I think I enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed dealing with the trades and the contractors and organizing all of that. And so, again, I think the pandemic and my work schedule has changed, that it's allowed me some free time to try some of those things. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. And my belief, which I've always had, is the day that I stop enjoying what I'm doing, I'm going to do something else. And so I still love what I do. I still love the clients I serve. But there's always something new to be done. I'm running a few new CEO peer groups right now, which is kind of new. So I've put together a group of 10 CEOs from different companies all around. We've actually got one from one of my clients from New Zealand. We've got clients in the US, we've got some in Canada. And so there's a group that's going to come together. I'm affiliated with essentially a company that runs peer groups. So they asked me to become a chair. And so I was in charge of building this group, and that has just launched. So that's pretty cool. Again, it just allows me to build those tighter connections with my clients and offer them some more value. And, I know you've been involved in things like that before. To me, there's nothing more valuable, again, than putting yourself in a room with like-minded individuals from different walks of life that can help excel you or move you to a different level.
That's why I go on seminars and courses. Like, yeah, I go because I'm interested in the content, but like the bigger is that network of people that you make, like sitting at desks like this when you do those little, okay, now go sit 5 of you and do this group, or go to this breakout room and do this little work exercise. And I find like those are the networks, and that's the value beyond the value that that you get from these kinds of things.
Yeah, and these are CEOs running $50 million plus companies. And so the most fascinating thing to me, again, is all these people get dressed the same way every morning. They wake up the same, like the Sonder quote, they've got the same challenges and problems. And so even when they're at that level of performance and making money and running this type of company, they still need that help. They still need those peers, those colleagues, those people to offer them support and feedback. So again, that's just been another nice thing with my office, is just, like I said, being able to surround myself with different people and get different perspectives, I think is so important.
Awesome, man. I think that's a great way to end this thing. I think it was awesome. Like, man, you're always dropping knowledge in here, and you're so relaxed. The vibe that comes off you is just super chill. Irvin, I appreciate that. Starting a business, this is your one opportunity. You got anything you want to throw at Noah before we top out?
Oh, off camera.
Off camera. All right. Anyways, thanks for being on here again as usual, and looking forward to having you as our last client. Like, just rolling through this thing for how many more years you got in you, and good luck in your last week of this challenge. Kill it. We'll maybe by then we'll be able to actually post your stats. This one will go up there for a couple of weeks. So keep it up, man. Good
Thanks
job.
a lot.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Now's the time to do more and be more.